Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Here are two truths about this political age we're living through. First, everything Donald Trump touches, everything is worse off for it. Second, Donald Trump wants to touch everything. Every policy, every monument, every cultural touchstone, including sports, like the World Cup. The biggest soccer tournament, arguably the biggest sporting event on earth. The U.S. is host for the first time since 1994, and the American team is very good. Like genuinely excellent, and is going deep into the knockout rounds of the tournament, largely on the strength of their indisputable star, Brooklyn-born striker Folarin Balogun. But during a victory last week in which he scored a goal, Balogun was given a red card and ejected for a hard foul on a defender. The defender was actually challenging him, but that made him ineligible to play in tonight's elimination game. Now, lots of people argued that call was a bad one. I was sympathetic to that view. I thought it was a bad call. Ultimately, though, the ref made the call, and those are rules, and sometimes you do get bad calls. But what even is a rule in the era of Donald Trump? We now know, after Balogun's suspension, the President of the United States called the head of FIFA, the International Soccer Federation that puts on the World Cup, and after that call, the star U.S. player was suddenly eligible to play again. They cited some technical reason why, but this hasn't happened in like 20 to 30 years. His one-game suspension was nullified. The man who received the phone call, FIFA President Gianni Infantino, said in a statement the decision to reinstate Balogun went through proper channels, adding, quote, respect for independent institutions and the rule of law is what protects the integrity of our competitions and the credibility of FIFA at all times. Okay, well, you may recognize Infantino's name from a decade's worth of scandals and ethics investigations, or from this event in December when he presented Donald Trump, who was very salty he didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize, with the first ever FIFA Peace Prize. Didn't exist until that moment it was awarded to Trump, and FIFA Peace Prize winner Donald Trump wants you to know he did his part to influence the outcome of this World Cup.
I understand sports really well, and that wasn't a foul. These were two great athletes that got tangled up, and this referee, who is a little bit suspect, if you check his past, I don't want to say that because I don't like to create controversy, but very suspect. I said, boy, that's a big, if it happened to another player, it would have been unfair, but when they take your best player, or just about, they have some great players, and they say you can't play. That's very unfair. That's, it's one thing to penalize somebody for the game, but how do you penalize them for a game that hasn't been played yet? It's very unfair. You can't do that. So, yes, I asked for a review by FIFA.
It's perfect. All the elements of Trump, right? First of all, imagine Donald Trump, super soccer fan, soccer knower. Okay. And then you call yourself smart and you call the referee or judge or election official suspect and you make up something about, check his past. Then you make a phone call, just like he did, remember, to the Georgia Secretary of State. And to be honest, now that he's touched the World Cup, I think we're all worse off for it. And he is being viewed by competitors around the world as a stain on the global pastime.
I think it's an absolute disgrace. And Infantino, he should be ashamed of this, because I think for the sportsmanship of this game is in question here.
Where to draw the line? This is the question that I ask. I have no answer to that. Where does this end now? Do we appeal if a yellow card is not a yellow card?
There's a bad decision that will hurt the World Cup. And I feel also sorry for the United States, because if they win, it will always be that will hang in the balance.
Now, to be clear, I'm glad Balogun's going to play. This U.S. World Cup team, the men's national team, is really exciting. They're really good. I hope they go really far. Would be amazing if they won the whole thing. And to also be clear, FIFA is one of the most notoriously corrupt bodies in sports. Trump is the most corrupt president in American history. So, together, it's just sort of they're made for each other. Perfect microcosm of everything that's wrong with both American politics in its current degraded state and global sports in its also current degraded state. But here's the thing. If you go a little deeper, you hit the wildest part of the story, something I have just been savoring all weekend, which is that the player at the center of the storm, Folarin Balogun, he is essentially an accidental American.
My journey to team's a little bit unique. My mom always told me the story growing up, but I never really paid it any mind. She came to the US to visit her sister, and she had her return ticket, but then they said that she was too pregnant. So I was born in New York, but grew up in London.
Grew up in London. You hear that accent? That's not a Brooklyn accent. In other words, the best player on the U.S. team, the one that we're all hoping plays and kicks butt, is a United States citizen by virtue of one thing and one thing only, and that is having been born here. And being born here makes you a citizen, clear as day in the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, passed after the Civil War, a constitutional right the Trump administration has tried tooth and nail to erase, and tried to erase at the Supreme Court just a week ago and failed. In fact, Flo Balogun's situation is precisely the same sort of very rare edge case that MAGA has absolutely lost their minds about in the wake of that loss at the Supreme Court, to the point they are now trying to call women, like Balogun's mother, a scourge on American society.
They need to get moving and start deporting people as fast as possible, starting with birthing-aged women, the birthing persons, as the Democrats call it.
If a person comes here 9 months pregnant to go look around at some things, in a couple of weeks, that is the mother of a lifetime American citizen and a direct line into American cash and welfare for the rest of that child's life.
Look, if you're pregnant and you're from a foreign nation, you know what? It's time for Congress to pass a law to say you can't come here.
I wonder if there's any examples out there of the unique advantages that birthright citizenship might confer on a society. I wonder if there's any benefits to having a country like that, where it's just clear as day if you're born here, you're a citizen. Oh, look at that. Thank you, soccer gods. Here's one right there on the soccer pitch. Flo Balogun is American, and that is a wonderful thing. But there's a deeper point here, right? Not just about the accident of his birth being here and him being an American, right? For the same reason that international players make the NBA, for instance, a better basketball league, and MLB a better baseball league, and educational and work visas mean more brilliant PhDs and engineers and doctors and caretakers and people who do hundreds of jobs that are important that we rely on. From first responders to essential workers, remember that category? Web developers here in America? Yeah, it's a simple, dumb, obvious point of what is truly exceptional about our nation. It used to be just like a cliche that we all just knew in school, but somehow has really been lost in so much of the immigration discourse. We are a nation of immigrants, we are a nation of birthright citizens, and that rules. Pablo Torre is the host of the Pulitzer-winning podcast, Pablo Torre Finds Out. Dave Zirin is the sports editor of The Nation, author of the upcoming book, The People's Historian, The Outsized Life of Howard Zinn. And they both join me now. Dave, I want to start with you because I do think, I think about immigration in the context of sports all the time. I think as any sports fan has to, because you're constantly encountering it. And you're even seeing it in other teams as well, right? Like the globalized world we live in, the post-colonial universe we live in, where people have moved across oceans and across nations. But here's the rundown of the U.S. team, of America's U.S. soccer team. 6 of the 26 players on the team are foreign-born. 5 others were born to immigrant parents. 2 others have immigrant grandparents. Nearly half have dual nationality. Like, in that sense, this is kind of what American exceptionalism is all about.
Yeah, and also up to this point, this has been such a likable team. It's also a team of players who are explicitly political, some incredible black American soccer players, one of whom sports a tattoo, Richards of Tommy Smith and John Carlos. You love to see the tradition there, right there in his flesh, for goodness sakes. And it's a team itself. Like one of the players born in the United States, he said, "We are a team that looks like this country. We are a team that is this country. So they were actually leaning into this idea that I thought was very political in a lot of their statements against the agenda of this administration. And so to have Trump step in now, they've gone from this very likable team to a team now, whatever they do going forward is officially tainted in the eyes of the world. They don't deserve this, but this is the reality of what Trump touches. If they win against Belgium, everyone is going to say they won because it was truly rigged. The fix was in to have the great Balogun play. And if they lose, I'm telling you, people are going to say good riddance. And the stink of this is going to stay on U.S. soccer. The stink of this is going to stay on the U.S. men's national team. And that's actually going to harm soccer going forward. So this is actually much bigger than just this team.
Although I think that's that's well taken. I would say also, and Pablo, I'm curious to get your thoughts, it's like the stink also adheres to FIFA, which just the stench is always wafting off FIFA. Like this is one of the most, preposterously sort of corrupt backroom deal kind of organizations in the entire world, sports, non-sports, whatever.
It's the apex predator of corruption, which is why this is such a match made in, some script writers' too on the nose version of heaven. I do want to point out that there is something to what Dave is saying, though, insofar as what this administration does over and over again is not merely wear sports as a skin suit in which Donald Trump walks around like a Men in Black alien, not knowing what a red card is, but possibly being the nation's #1 sports fan, despite knowing nothing and admitting to as much, which is just insane. It drives me crazy, actually, how he gets to get away with that credibility despite demonstrating zero awareness of any of the basic rules. Yeah. That said, the other thing they do is frack sports. And what do I mean by that? I mean that they keep on drilling down into the basic under the surface core of what makes sports special, thinking they can extract from it, not realizing what they're doing is jeopardizing the very thing that makes it special, and therefore endangering the whole ecosystem. Like, Chris, there's never been a year like this in sports, I dare say. We went from the Knicks winning a title and people out in the streets self-organizing to the World Cup, and in between there was the UFC thing at the White House. And every time I watch this story and I see Trump try to take his drill out and get money out of it, it reminds me that we're about to risk the thing that makes sports special, was a plausible integrity and a collective joy, and he ruins everything.
Yeah, and remember, he did it with the U.S. the hockey team, right? I mean, which was a great story and a great team that had a great win, and then he makes this stupid, gross, sexist joke, and a bunch of them kind of laugh, maybe genuinely, maybe awkwardly, maybe just what else do you do in that situation? But he introduced, he dropped his little bit of poison in the glass of water, and it just goes everywhere. And you've also got this decision is so sort of transparent, Dave. You've got Sepp Blatter, who again is a cartoon character, right, for his lifetime. Sepp Blatter coming out to say red cards are not overturned by political phone calls. They are overturned by rules, evidence, and independent bodies. If a U.S. president intervenes with a FIFA president, a player is suddenly cleared before a World Cup knockout match. The question is unavoidable. Quo vadis, FIFA? Football must never become a playground for political power. I mean, when you've got Sepp Blatter, Dave, calling you out for corruption.
When Sepp Blatter has the moral high ground, you have to reassess everything about your life at that point. I mean, Sepp Blatter, for those who don't know, when he was running FIFA, was accused of money laundering, was accused of being a party to criminal racketeering. I mean, and this is the person who says, I don't know, this Gianni Infantino, this ain't great. And you know what? He's right to do it, because for all of Sepp Blatter's horribleness, and believe me, whole books have been written about Sepp Blatter and the ways in which he corrupted the beautiful game. Gianni Infantino is someone who's had more trips to the White House than any member of the Democratic Party. But that's true in terms of official White House visits. And Gianni Infantino is also someone who's on the board of peace and has pledged to FIFA will spend hundreds of millions of dollars on soccer stadiums to build his vision of this Gaza Riviera. I mean, and he's someone he wears the MAGA hat. He was at the inauguration. So, I mean, Infantino is somebody who's almost comically evil in this regard, especially when he steps forward and says, well, actually, we're doing this because of, the double secret probation rule in Article 24, subset C, and not because he got a call from Donald Trump saying, you're my lapdog, this is what you need to do.